Trump Utopia, American Dystopia. This is Law and Society. Please subscribe. Donald Trump's regime is pulling funding from programs that Americans desperately need while spending taxpayer money on his regime's priorities that have nothing to do with helping Americans. Giving tax cuts to the ultra-rich and turning DHS into the 13th largest police force in the world while taking away basic healthcare and food assistance from people who need that little bit of help to live with dignity. Illegally meddling in election archives and voter rolls in states Trump lost in all his elections, promising retribution while pardoning thousands of violent felons because they support him and obeyed his orders. As cost of living remains high, Donald lies to the public about the cost of living going down. As his ratings drop, he lies and says that he has record high approval ratings. His DHS army keeps killing innocent Americans while he falsely claims that his DHS army is making the country safe by clearing the country of immigrants who commit violent crimes. While we see the DHS kidnapping toddlers and using them as bait, Trump's spokespeople continue their lies about how they are removing criminal illegal aliens. None of the hundreds of children Donald Trump's regime is detaining have criminal records. None of them. And a vast majority of adults in custody do not have criminal records either. Some of them are U.S. citizens, and many others entered the United States, like Liam Ramos and his father, legally as asylum seekers. Donald Trump's big bad bill already gave the ultra-rich massive tax cuts and made them permanent, but no tax cuts for regular people who habitually pay a higher percentage of taxes than the richest because of tax loopholes. Instead of taxing the rich and solving the growing debt problem in the United States, Donald Trump's regime has put that burden of paying off the debt on working people. While multi-billionaires and corporations and farmers get their bailouts, the rest of America is left with the bill. And you see Dr. Oz talking about, just going to work right out of high school and working one more year than you usually do if you are going to be retiring. Just extend how long the working class can work so you can get every ounce of their labor to pay down the national debt. But the richest people, they don't have to pay that tax, the taxes as everybody else does. They get their $1 trillion+ multi-year tax cuts. When prices are going up and corporations are cutting jobs, our government wants us to believe that we're entering a golden age of American dominance. In the thick of all this controversy, Donald and his ilk are invading state archives and removing voter records, corrupting the chain of custody of those voter rolls. His DOJ is conditioning DHS Army withdrawal from sanctuary cities after those localities turn over the city's voter rolls and citizen information. Donald Trump plans on corrupting elections and the voting process, whether it be by manipulating voter information and throwing people off the rolls, or by stationing agents and even the U.S. military near voting locations. And more recently, talking about nationalizing the elections, which Congress cannot do because it is written in Article 1 that it is the power of the states and Congress and not the national enforcement apparatus to enforce how national elections are held. That's in the Constitution. If you want to change it, you need an amendment. And if you want a constitutional amendment, you need 2/3 of both chambers of the House of Representatives and the Senate, and then you need 3/4 of the states. Until you get that ratification, you don't have the power to change that around, Donald Trump. But don't be surprised if this happens and federal agents stop you from entering voting locations without proof of citizenship. Remember, federal forces have no authority to regulate voting. State and local police have that policing responsibility. Presidents don't have the power to do anything when it comes to elections. Doing so is unconstitutional. But it is unlikely that Trump will really care about constitutional boundaries. He wants Congress to keep its MAGA majority at any cost. So make sure you urge your local and state elected leaders to safeguard elections in your state and not let the federal government compromise our voting systems. Americans are left with skyrocketing healthcare costs after the GOP refused to renew Affordable Care Act subsidies. We are left now with shaky public service as Health and Human Services cuts healthcare funding for rural and poor localities. The Education Department cuts funding for education and basic meal plans that feed children who do not get the nutrition they need at home. Cuts to Medicaid and SNAP will impact the poorest among us, but MAGA doesn't think the poorest among us deserve the basic help our government provides and has provided citizens for generations. What's perhaps most astounding is that despite cutting all these public programs and making life expensive for most Americans by unleashing a tariff regime that has contributed to high costs for everything, Trump's regime has been unsuccessful in bringing down the national debt. That is primarily because the tax cuts to the wealthiest, ballooning funding for DHS, the Department of Defense, and various other useless projects Trump has embarked upon, like destroying the East Wing with the hopes of replacing it with a giant ballroom that nobody wanted. But no one will tell him he's wrong, and he wouldn't believe it if it were drilled into his head. Trump is also very busy enriching himself by the weight of the office he occupies. Him, his family, and his friends have made billions this last year, all connected quite brazenly to his political power. He has broken all norms and violated several laws to enrich himself, his family, and friends while he serves as president. And he has, more than once, postured to, in his private capacity, sue our government that he runs for various false claims of persecution. Any of these ventures alone would shake up politics and society in normal circumstances. But we are not living in normal times. 2026 will be a year of revelations, a year when the country and world sees how abysmally Donald Trump's regime has failed America and the world. It will be a year when we see our economy falter and drag the world down with it. We will then see the world moving forward without America and Americans being left behind in every discipline. This process will unfold slowly because the impact of no education and rampant disease will take a toll on Americans gradually instead of in an instant shock. Slowly, our standard of living will go down. The dollar's buying power will go down. America's standing in the world will go down. We won't be reliable partners in any international endeavor. Donald Trump is taking America in the wrong direction, and unless there's strong opposition that changes the political landscape in this midterm election, our country will keep sliding in every facet of life. We will be a nation in decline for years to come because of the damage Donald Trump and his enablers continue to inflict on us. If you don't want this to become reality, register to vote. Get your friends to register to vote as well. Take them with you, and when you go to vote, have your IDs with you. If you are stopped by federal agents, demand local and state law enforcement to intervene. Let the federal agents know calmly that they don't have jurisdiction to stop you from voting. Remember to remain peaceful. Do not shout out or spit at law enforcement. They will use that against you. Even if they become violent, it is critical that you stay peaceful. Keep calling your congressional and local leaders to insist that federal forces mustn't interfere in our right to vote. And finally, for the love of God, please vote MAGA out of our government. Thank you for listening, and I'll talk to you soon.